When it comes to inner tubes, there are 3 different types to choose from: Butyl, Latex and TPU.
But out of these 3, which one can claim the crown as the ultimate inner tube?
Well, in this video, we are going to explain the differences between them and tell you which is lightest,
Cheapest,
fastest,
and has the best puncture protection, and which is the most practical to use.
well, let's find out.
Had the most puncture protection, probably.
You get those, mate.
Okay.
While some manufacturers, lab testing, pro riders and us here at GCNTech will sometimes be heard saying tubeless tyres are the future, there's still a lot of good things to be said about your traditional inner tube and clincher tyre setup.
Yeah, I mean, it's tech that's been used for an incredibly long time, and it's still being refined by manufacturers. So much so that the best clincher and inner tube combinations are often as fast as the best tubeless ones, which is great news if you don't want to jump on the tubeless bandwagon and have all the faff of trying to set up tubeless tyres.
However, first thing we need to do is explain the differences between these 3 options. So this is a butyl inner tube. It's the type that has been around for years and years, and it's basically like standard fit on every single type of bike. It's an elastomeric polymer, which is often used in sealants and adhesives, and typically, well, they're black in colour.
Next is latex, which is made from a natural product, latex rubber from trees. It's then processed to turn it into an inner tube. These are typically pink, blue or green.
And the final type is TPU, which is short for thermoplastic polyurethane, and it's a type of flexible plastic. These represent the latest technology in inner tubes. They're available in lots of different bright colours, and some are even clear. The easiest and most clear-cut way to differentiate between these types of inner tubes is weight and price. Butyl by far being the cheapest option here, around £5, euros or dollars. That's followed by latex tubes, which sit at around 3 times the price, so costing £15, euros or dollars.
Yeah, but top of the tree, TPU tubes, typically twice the price of a latex tube, in the region of £30, euros or dollars. Although, the price of TPU tubes has been coming down, and some can now be found for the same price as a latex tube.
But it's not all about prices with these inner tubes, because the characteristics between them varies hugely. Most significant of those being weight and rolling resistance. Now, in terms of weight, TPU comes out at the lightest at 25 grams, followed by latex at 85 grams, then followed by butyl tubes in the region of around 140 grams. Now, the weights between them all is going to vary depending on the manufacturer, the inner tube size, and the valve length used. So the greater price directly relates to that reduction in weight. And of course, because our bikes have got 2 wheels, we can double those savings. And it means for around £60 or so, using a TPU tube, you could save around 200 grams, which makes switching your inner tubes perhaps one of the best pounds per gram saving that's possible on your bike.
In terms of performance, there's a considerable weight saving switching from butyl to TPU. It's not enough that it's going to turn you into a Tour de France cyclist, but it's something that most cyclists can feel when they make the switch. And on an epic alpine climb, something like the Stelvio Pass, you can expect to save in the region of 10 seconds in weight alone. But there's another performance gain, rolling resistance. And that's something we're going to explain later in the video.
I feel the pressure on me, how it's itching under my own skin.
In terms of puncture resistance from sharp objects or holes in the road, it's actually incredibly tough to test and get any meaningful results. However, I have a theory here. A theory which is very much based on years worth of experience, having used all 3 different types of inner tubes over a prolonged period of time. And I'm going to say there is no noticeable difference between them. Now, I know if we took the inner tubes out with the tyres, inflated them and then tried to puncture them, there would be a small difference. However, when you take into account the fact that a sharp object has got to penetrate through the far tougher tyre to then get to the inner tubes, that small difference is not going to be very noticeable. However, what most certainly is going to be noticeable is the ease of using them and the practicality between them when it comes to everyday use.
TPU tubes come top of the list in this regard. They're pretty damage resistant and robust, and they can be folded up into a really small size, which means they're great. They don't take up much space in your saddlebag or your pocket.
That was so easy.
And they're really good at holding air, so you don't have to pump them up and re-inflate them every single day. Butyl tubes sort of come second. They also don't need to be pumped up every day and will hold air much better than a latex tube, but they're considerably bigger and take up more space, and they're heavier in your saddlebag or pocket.
And then we have the latex inner tube, which kind of actually sits in the middle ground in terms of its size when it's folded up. However, you do definitely feel like you have to be a lot more careful with them when you're handling them, either sort of storing them into your saddlebag or packing them away as your spares. And there's also perhaps what is the most frustrating thing about latex inner tubes, and that is the fact that overnight they'll lose enough pressure that you then have to recheck the pressure when it comes to the morning. And I mean, you might not say that's really a big deal for you. However, when you're running late for your commute or late to meet your group ride, that is going to start to become quite blooming annoying.
Rolling resistance comes next. Now, as much as I'd like to send Alex out on 3 100-mile rides with each different tube so that we could look at the differences and gather loads of data, it wouldn't be very practical to do so, and there are loads of factors and variables in the real world that we can't control. Fortunately, several people have done lots of controlled lab testing of the different inner tubes, which allows you to see the key differences, such as bicyclerolling-resistance.com and AeroCoach.
Just in case you're not familiar with the term rolling resistance, it's the amount of energy wasted as frictional losses from your tyres and inner tubes. The lower those losses, the faster you're going to go. Pretty simple, eh?
According to bicyclerolling-resistance.com's testing, even the best butyl inner tube has around 3 watts more rolling resistance than a TPU tube, and 4 watts more rolling resistance than a latex tube, which they exhibit the lowest rolling resistance. They're the fastest. Now, that's just for one wheel too. So if you go from the worst case scenario to the best, then you could potentially save something in the region of 10 watts, which is huge. It's definitely something that riders can anecdotally feel when they make that change on their bikes. And to give some context to that, as a rule of thumb, 5 watts is generally worth more than a kilo of weight on a climb like Alpe d'Huez. So switching from butyl to latex is really significant.
And then finally onto comfort, which ties in really nicely with rolling resistance, would you believe it? Because inner tubes which exhibit a low amount of rolling resistance will help improve the comfort that you have on your bike. This is due to them allowing the sidewalls of the tyre to deform more easily over bumps in the road, and also because of the reduction in friction between the tyre and the inner tube interface. And this means that comparable tyre pressures, latex tubes will be the comfiest, closely followed by TPU tubes, with butyl tubes lagging behind. And the great thing about it is, this is something which is very noticeable when you're out on the road. And I know you might find that hard to believe, but trust me, it's a thing. So, what can we sum up from all of this information, and what can we crown as the ultimate inner tube? Well, for me, it's the TPU tube which comes out on top. I like the fact that it's super lightweight, it's got comparable rolling resistance to a latex inner tube, and the fact that it folds up super small. I mean, yes, I know that it's considerably more expensive, but when you take that into account in terms of the cost of other high-performance bike equipment, well, it doesn't seem so bad. What about you?
I think it depends. I don't think we can crown one, because I think they all have their relative advantages and disadvantages.
I knew you'd say that. There's not one.
My favourite is latex.
Okay,
but
inner tubes.
For like day-to-day use or training and stuff, I'd probably put, well, TPU's good, but then, I mean, butyl can be good too.
All right, so if someone was focused on all-out lightweight, TPU tube is for them. If someone was focused on all-out speed,
Latex.
All right, and if you're just not bothered about performance at all and you just want to have a few extra pounds, euros or dollars left in your back pocket, well, you've got the old faithful, the Butyl inner tube. Hope everyone's found this video exciting and informative. We are also keen to hear your thoughts on the subject, so let us know in the comments section down below what type of inner tube you prefer to use. And of course, if you want to see more cool bike tech related videos, Ollie, what should people do?
Subscribe
To GCNTech.
No, inner tubes, I think it's the best upgrade you can make. It's my favourite upgrade.
Love it. Right, we're out of here to carry on a discussion of inner tubes. Bye.
We're great fun at parties.